Namaskaram, ma'am. How are you?
Namaskaram. I'm fine, Katyayani. How are you?
I'm good. I just want to really thank you for doing this because when we thought of this festival, and this is the first time we're commissioning work actually, Classical. Otherwise, we were hosting artists with the work that they'd already done. But this festival, we thought we should, this was the idea that we got, that these goddesses should be explored, and this very different kind of a theme. So thank you for agreeing immediately. I remember our conversation was not even like 10 minutes. You said, yeah, I'll do this. This is the concept. I understand. So what was it? I mean, you've been doing a lot of work, a lot of new work, even in the pandemic. So what was it that made you say, okay, I can spend time with it?
Okay, first thing, because you asked me, because I have come for your festival before also with live festival. So I know with the passion and the dedication with which you bring these artists to the Hyderabad stage, and you're also an artist, you're also a dancer. So I really like the way you work, and since you asked me, I immediately said yes, whatever the theme may
Thank
be.
you. Thank you.
Now, now we come to the theme. Yes, the theme really intrigued me. It was extremely interesting, and you gave me this goddess, the Uchishta Chandalini goddess, and that's when I started my love life with her. Knowing her, and so the thing was that what I what I found that I could bring to the table is the fact that you're calling it Gora, the grotesque goddess. So you're calling her grotesque, but you're also calling her a goddess. So there is a, kind of a dichotomy there. Because in any case, all our gods and goddesses, most of them, have very quirky physical attributes.
Absolutely.
We have elephant head, we have three heads, we have 10
Three
hands,
eyes, three
three eyes,
eyes.
10
Yeah.
hands, four hands, and they all signify extremely high philosophical content. And the fact that she's grotesque actually makes her beautiful.
Lovely.
So for me, she was the most beautiful goddess I've ever seen. So because she demolishes the traditional parameters of what is beautiful, what is ugly. Who is to say what is beautiful and what is
Yeah.
ugly? Who
Yeah.
is to say what is pure and what is impure?
Impure.
What is sacred and what is profane? You know, so it was a fantastic way to understand this goddess, and I thought that she really reflected a lot of concepts that we need to imbibe in
Rethink.
today's time,
Yeah.
because she signifies no wastage, recycling, conservation, because anything and everything that you give her is an offering to her, whether it is half eaten food, whether it is rotten food, whether it is anything that you have picked from the garbage. Anything that you give her, she accepts it with so much of love and
Love.
graciousness. So she speaks, I think she speaks very highly of recycling. And let's I I'm very disturbed by the amount of everything that we
Wastage.
waste, that we as human beings we waste.
Yes. Yes.
I'm very disturbed by that. There's a lot of disturbance on your end, Katyayani. Okay. That really disturbs me, the amount of food that is wasted in parties and in big lunch dinners and in weddings, and you know even the packings that come in Amazon, the packings that we just throw away. Do we recycle it? Is there a proper way of recycling? So I try my best to have biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste. So she's a goddess who speaks about recycling. And the other concept that I really liked about her was that of inclusivity, because she belongs to the Chandalini community, which is supposed to be an ostracized community, a marginalized community. And she does not see who is rich, who is poor, who is of which caste, or who is of which social standing. She accepts anything and everything from anybody and everybody. So this kind of free spirit that she has, and I somehow, when I was doing her, I was working on her, I somehow felt that I'm also like that, or I want to be like that, or something like that. So I found a lot of similarities between how I am and how the Uchishta Chandalini is, and I was really, actually, I was really humbled by that feeling.
You answered like 2-3 questions that I had, because I wanted to speak about the form and all of that. But another thing is, it's very difficult to create a storyline for dance. I mean, see, understanding this philosophy and putting it in writing is one step. It's in one way we can do it. But how do you translate it into a production with a beginning, a middle, and the end? How did you arrive at that? Because I've seen your film, I mean, 3 or 4 times I've seen the film till now, and I loved it. And I can see each time I watched it, I've noticed more layers, and the complete there's a very clear journey that she has throughout, even within those 17 minutes. So how did you arrive at that storyline?
I arrived first by just reading about her a lot, thinking about her a lot, and finding literature on her from the Shakti Sangamitra. I from the Tantric text, I read a lot about her in that text. And then she's also referred in the Devi Mahatmyam, and all the interpretations and the translations and all of that I read. And so I did a lot of research. You had also sent me a lot of links that spoke about her. So I worked on all of that. I spoke to some experts and some scholars, and I kind of created a picture in my mind. And I was very definite to show the beauty in her grotesqueness. I was absolutely very particular about that. And so, which is why nowhere in the film do I actually look grotesque. But the thing is, she was a nonconformist. She was like a maverick, and she was unconventional. I tried to bring that into the dance, and that is the grotesqueness that we are talking about. That is the the untraditional, or the heterodox kind of behavior that we are trying to look at. So so I wanted to create her picture. I wanted to tell people who she is, and I also wanted to tell people what she is. What does she signify? Not just this goddess who jumps and dances on over the dead bodies in the crematorium. Not just that, not just the physical attributes of the goddess, but also what she actually signifies. And in my interpretation, what I have learned from her, nobody has written that she speaks about waste and she speaks about waste management, and I have interpreted it. It's purely my interpretation that she speaks about inclusivity and she speaks about recycling. The two very, very important concepts that I personally really, really attach my life to. So, which is why it was an amalgamation of the person that she is, and also of the philosophical significances, and also the present contemporary concepts that she reflects.
One thing I noticed was she's very naughty and very playful, and she's one of those women that you'd like to meet and have go dancing with. She's like that. The way she moves, the way she looks at Shiva, the way she responds to the form of Shiva, in the very first.
She seduces him. She seduces him, and unabashedly she seduces him. Yeah.
She's someone that's extremely secure in what she is and what her spirit is, and that I thought was extremely beautiful. How did you create the musical soundscape for this? Because a lot of it happens in Tanam. A lot of it happens in a voice that does a lot of Tanam. So how do you generally, also I wanted to ask you this, ma'am, how do you come up, because I had a recent interview with Vasudevan sir, and we spoke for a very long time about your process with him, about how you create music. So what is it in your mind, what is it that you tell these the musicians? What inputs do you give them? How do you work? How do you conceive of that musicality for a production?
So the thing is, I work with Sudha Raguraman very closely, and I've been working with her for several years, and we kind of understand each other, and I think that is very, very important. And I'm able to explain to her what my concept is, what my vision is, and she's able to understand. I mean, that's very important. She's able to understand it, and she's able to design her music, according to what I have visualized my dance to be. And once that happens, then on both sides we are open to suggestions. I'm open to her suggestions, she's open to my suggestions. So the tweaking is done. But the basic structure is made completely on the basis of what I have visualized the whole piece to be. So this is where the Uchishta Chandalini, Aim Reem Claim Uchishta Chandalini. She's put such a beautiful tune to that. So when that has to come, and when we move into Tanam, what am I showing in the Tanam? I will tell her, and then she will think of a raga based on the emotion that I'm going to play.
So do you decide your movement patterns before you go to her? Like what the content will be in which section of the production? How do you?
I plan broadly. It's like a storyboard. I broadly plan, like, this is where she is going to see Shiva, who's dressed up as a tribal. This is where she's going to change herself as a tribal woman. This is where she's going to seduce him. This is, things like this. So this is going to be the different sections. So I make a storyboard. The actual movements comes when she's made the music, and I work with the music, and still that's only the first draft. Then we do a second draft where I again, make some changes. So the whole music goes through about 3-4 drafts before we are ready to record it.
Okay. So there's a lot of back and forth happening, and there's a lot
Back and forth, yes. And it's only during the drafts that I prepare my
actually
movement. I prepare my move. Yes, that I actually choreograph.
Actually make it a part of it.
Yes.
So okay, lovely. The reason I'm asking you this is also because there's a lot of new work that you're doing, and in such beautiful. So I wanted to know how long the process is, how much it demands. It of course it takes a lot of on both sides. Yes, okay. And you've been doing a lot of dancing for the camera, definitely since the whole pandemic situation. How do you differentiate between the two? For stage, for camera, do you find a difference? How do you think? Let's say you're preparing something only for the camera. Is there a difference in the way you approach the piece?
So yes, I've been doing a lot of work for the camera, and camera-centric movements, camera-centric group choreography I've done. But honestly, let me tell you, when I was working with Uchishta Chandalini, I was not thinking about the camera at all. I did not want to burden myself with the fact that it's going to be on a screen. It's going to be a film. So with the result, I did not make a dance film. I just made a dance which was captured on camera. Of course, I did play with angles. But I did not play with different kind of imageries. So actually, the 17-minute piece, I've done it continuous, start to finish. I've not stopped even. I've done it like a performance. I've done it like a performance, and we just used 4 5 different angles, and we just used some nice lights. The space, I wanted it to be a very stark space, black floor, black background. I wanted to be extremely stark because I felt her personality is so incandescent. It's so bright, and it's so full of color that she herself will bring color to that area, which was very stark. So this particular piece, I did not make it like a dance film. I made it like, this is something like I can even perform anytime. Like today I can go and perform this on stage. So and why I did that, I really don't know. I just I just felt like just being with her completely and making it into one solid piece and not cutting it. Doing a piece in like 5 second shot here and 1 minute here. It's not that I've not done it. I've done it. I did a whole piece called Sannidhanam with a group choreography. It was like this. So that has a different energy to it. But for here to actually get into the character, I didn't want to get in and get out all the time. So I wanted to be with her for 17 minutes. That is why I did it as a continuous thing.
I remember something you said after you shot the film. You said, I've danced in a way I've never danced before. The way you move. And when I saw the film, I realized what you said, because the movements are not necessarily, we as dancers always try to look for beauty in movement in the way we understand beauty in movement, rather than a movement being, by itself. There was this thought that I had once when I had gone to Coimbatore and I watched the film on Adiyogi that they project now. There's a 5 second dance thing that they project, and I thought, what if we think of Shiva, we say he's dancer and all that. What if Shiva actually came and danced here? Would we be able to handle it? That energy, will we like it? Will we like his dance? Will we be moved by it? Or will we think, oh my God, this is how Shiva's dance is? So we have so many of these, and I saw all those movement patterns that you've done in the film, which are very different from what we generally include in our, typical dancing.
Yeah, it was important because I had to make that vocabulary to create her personality. So I had to do it. She's not Radha, she's not Parvati, she's somebody completely different. So I had to think out of the box as far as movement vocabulary was concerned.
It's beautiful, ma'am. Thank you so much for doing it. And the last question I wanted to ask you was, I've been curating for some time now, and I've been, speaking to dancers about, you are one person who asks the least amount of questions. How do you manage to do that? You just say, okay, when is it? Where is it? How long? Done. That's it. There are no questions at all about anything else. I'm not comparing or whatever, but I would be expecting. I'll say, okay, ma'am will ask me when she's trying to shoot or something like that. And then you're like, we've shot the film. So I'm like, okay, how does that sense of clarity that you have with respect to your productions, that always amazes me. Where do you get that from? How do you know that when you get this theme, this is what you're going to do with it, this is how it's going to be, and then it's done,
So the least number of questions stems from two things. One is trust on the organizer and trust within yourself. So you trust the organizer, so you don't ask so many questions. And then you trust yourself also to do the right thing. And so you do not ask questions because you have all the answers. I have the answers already. So I think that's what it is. And I don't waste time. So I do.
That clarity, that sense of clarity, that translation from idea to movement. I think there's a question I asked you once when you had come to Hyderabad also. I don't see a gap between your idea and the execution, and that to me is the most wondrous thing to watch in dance, because a lot of the times you hear a synopsis, but when you watch the piece, it's halfway there, or it's like, okay, it's a little, words are much easier to, it's easier to convey through words than through movement, but with you there's no gap there. That I think is the most wondrous thing about your art. And I asked you, how do you achieve it, and you said, I'm the audience, that's why. But is there something else that you'd like to say now, because this video people will be watching?
Okay, so what did I say that time? That I said I
You
was.
said, first and foremost, I think like if I were watching this, is it clear to me? I am the audience. I love it. So is it clear to me? That is what you said. But I think for dancers, usually in their minds it is clear. But when you have to translate some, for instance, the way you show waist in this, the first time that you show waist in the plie squat, and you show waist, and you showed roots in another in another production. So that once you do it, it seems, oh yeah, this is so simple, it can be shown so easily. But before that, one would be wondering, how is she going to now do all of this?
Yeah, I know. I think part of it is because not have this baggage on the head that I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer and I have to maintain that decorum. We have to understand that emotionally, if I'm maintaining the decorum, I will maintain it physically also. So I should not be burdened by this fact. That's why I keep telling my students, throw the technique out of the window. Because only then will your own technique improve. Only then something else will emerge out of you. So I think that is what it is, not to be burdened by the fact of doing everything correct and taking risks. I think it's important to take risks.
And to believe in that risk, and to carry it forward with that conviction. How long do you have to practice before it gets into your system like that, a new production like this? How long do you spend with it?
It's never enough. It's never enough. Yeah, it's never enough, because every time I feel, oh my God, I wish I could, could have done this about 4-5 times more, or a week more. So I always feel that I'm always running short of working towards it. So I'm always pursuing excellence. I'm always pursuing excellence. Even when I'm recording, even when I'm dancing on stage, I'm like, okay, next time I need to pursue this better. I need to do this better. So it's always a seeking. It's always yearning towards that excellence.
Better and better and better.
Yeah.
Lovely. Ma'am, thank you so much for doing this, and it was a pleasure watching your film. I'm sure people will love it. I exploited my position as a curator, and I saw it the day you sent it. I sat down, I put my phone away, and I was like, I'm gonna watch it. So I watched it 3-4 times. I'm sure people are gonna love it. And
thank you. I'm looking forward to watching all the other dance films. The promos look absolutely fascinating. And what I like about what you've done as a curator is asked artists to present, and every expression of dance is so different.
Yeah.
It is so different.
And all the ideas are so different, the way they're approaching it, because I've been with all of you for the past few months. The process, each and every one is doing it so differently, and it's so fascinating to see that diverse kind of approach about a similar kind of a theme too.
Absolutely.
So it is very exciting. Thank you for this, ma'am, and I hope to watch you perform this live someday, Uchishta Chandalini, because it can be easily performed live.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would love to watch you perform live. Thank you.
Thank you, Katyayani. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
Bye.